Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly fascinating real-world case study. We're looking at the dramatic turnaround story of a legacy communications and events agency. This is a company that had a powerful vision, they had a massive market opportunity, but behind the scenes, well, they were facing a deep, literally crippling operational crisis. So we're going to look at exactly how systemic dysfunction almost entirely broke them, and more importantly, how a highly targeted, AI-powered strategic intervention completely cured their operational disease.
Our diagnostic arc today covers 5 phases. First, the legacy agency crisis. Then, diagnosing systemic dysfunction. After that, the strategic intervention, followed by deploying custom agents, and we'll wrap up with the transformation framework. Let's jump right in. All right, part 1, the legacy agency crisis, and identifying the core pain points.
Okay, so just to ground us in reality here, we are looking at a redacted case study file of a real-world company. To maintain privacy, obviously the names and specific images are hidden, but let me be clear. The operational failures and the subsequent recovery are entirely real. This agency was growing, sure, but that growth was becoming completely impossible to sustain. We are dissecting a genuine systemic failure here. It's the classic story of an organization trying to scale up in the modern era, but dragging along all these obsolete manual processes.
The crazy thing is, the problem wasn't their product. It wasn't their market fit. The core problem was just deeply dysfunctional operations. Execution relied completely on individuals' memories, and, honestly, erratic improvisation. I mean, think about how dangerous that is for a business. There was no structure, absolutely no documentation, no scalability. It was pure operational chaos, where every single new project was essentially just reinventing the wheel.
Let's drill down into one of the most critical symptoms they were dealing with, which we define here as bottleneck leadership. And look, this is a fatal flaw for any scaling company. It's a linear business model where there's only one single point of command, the CEO level. Because every single change, every project had to be approved by just one person, it created massive delays. It built this dependency that literally stalled dozens of critical initiatives. When you have bottleneck leadership, your company can only move as fast as one single human being can read their emails.
And the symptoms of this dysfunctional ops disease were everywhere. You had fragmented communication, meaning no formal channels for project coordination. Everything was just completely reactive. You had absent infrastructure. Think broken HR systems, no standardized workflows for requests for proposals or RFPs. There was this completely unclear structure where departments were basically unowned, no accountability chains at all. And the absolute worst part? Zero documentation and zero digital integration. The agency was essentially trapped in inefficient, manual processes, even while their entire sector was moving toward massive digital transformation.
Moving on to Section 2, diagnosing systemic dysfunction. Let's actually look at the numbers behind all this chaos.
So we've talked about the qualitative stuff, but to really understand the severity here, we need to look at the quantitative reality. The strategic architects who were brought in to save this agency did a comprehensive diagnostic dive across every single critical business function. And what they found meant they absolutely couldn't just apply a quick patch. They had to build a sustainable operational engine from the absolute ground up. Let's look at the 3 most shocking numbers this audit uncovered.
0. Yep, that is the number of operational playbooks this company had. 0 standard operating procedures. 0 client pipelines. 0 documented RFP procedures. Now, you might be wondering, why does this matter so much? Well, because when every single process lives entirely inside individual employees' heads, you've created massive institutional knowledge risk. If one key employee walks out the door, the entire blueprint for how you do business just leaves with them.
Next number, 5. There were 5 entirely unowned departments operating without clear leadership, totally without accountability, and without any real performance structure. 3 of these departments were completely adrift, and that meant the decisions within them defaulted right back up to the top, heavily relying on the CEO. This, of course, directly fed right back into that bottleneck leadership problem we just talked about.
And here's another 0, a 0% AI adoption rate. Despite the entire communications and events sector undergoing massive digital transformation, this legacy agency was completely stagnant. And you want to know the truly tragic part? They had actually purchased intelligent tooling, but it just sat there, entirely unused. There was no training budget allocated, no real adoption strategy, just wasted software gathering digital dust.
Section 3, the strategic intervention, going from chaos straight to order.
So you're probably asking, how do you even begin to fix a system this profoundly broken? Well, the agency deployed a strategic intervention system. This wasn't just a tweak, it was a comprehensive operational redesign across all departments. They didn't just go out and buy more software, they reconstructed the entire pipeline. They mapped out an AI roadmap, they redesigned the delivery model, and they implemented actual training systems. They realized they had to build the architecture before they could furnish the house.
And what they did next is actually brilliant. They utilized a 3-tier AI implementation system. Look, the agency was strapped by service budget constraints, which is super common when legacy companies are trying to pivot. So the architects didn't just recommend the most expensive, flashy enterprise software. They created a really pragmatic, phased approach, a free tier, a budget tier, and a premium tier. Honestly, this is exactly how you implement scalable tech without bankrupting the organization in the process.
Section 4. Deploying custom AI agents. This is where we get into the really targeted medicine.
To cure those severe structural inefficiencies and the complete lack of documentation, the architects developed custom AI agents. And this is a real game changer because every single bot here solves a specific operational failure we diagnosed earlier. The RFP proposal agent? It instantly fixes the lack of standardized workflows for pitching. The legal and contracts agents? They completely streamline that bottleneck negotiation phase. And the internal FAQ agent? That one hits the nail on the head. It completely eliminates the zero operational playbooks problem by giving every single employee instant access to organizational knowledge.
Now, one specific deployment here absolutely stands out as a phenomenal example of custom implementation, and that's the Saudi Dialects agent. When you're an events and communications agency, nuance is literally everything. You can't just use a generic out-of-the-box translation tool. You need highly specialized, culturally appropriate communication. This just perfectly shows how customized AI integration must be to actually succeed and drive real value in specific, localized regional markets. It's not just automation, it's intelligent, localized augmentation.
Section 5, the Transformation Framework. Let's look at the ultimate blueprint for recovery.
All right, here's the final prognosis. Curing deep, systemic legacy dysfunction isn't just a simple one-and-done software patch. It absolutely requires a robust, multifaceted approach. To ensure this company's long-term operational health and scale, a complete suite of services had to be delivered, the whole shebang. They had to transform them from a stalling legacy agency into a truly modernized powerhouse.
Let's actually look at the full stack of what got deployed. It all started with that strategic audit and organizational architecture. Then came the actual SOP design and RFP process engineering to capture all that crucial internal knowledge. They built out training infrastructure and intake systems so those purchased tools would, actually get used. They deployed those custom GPT agents we just talked about. And crucially, this is absolutely key, they provided an AI maturity framework for phased adoption alongside executive advisory to ensure the C-suite could actually lead this new structure. This isn't just a quick fix for one agency. This is a scalable blueprint for literally any organization trying to modernize.
And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway here. Seeing this dramatic shift from zero documentation, bottleneck leadership, and zero AI adoption, all the way to a fully streamlined, custom architected powerhouse, it really forces you to look inward. So I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. Is your organization secretly operating on chaotic legacy systems, or are you truly ready to build your AI architecture? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.